If you've been running your workshop with CNCs and lasers, but you've been hesitant to get into 3D printing due to the hassle of tuning and getting quality prints, well, your wait may be over. I'm taking a look at the Bambu A1 series and how you can use that in your laser and CNC workshop. So if you're interested in this, want to learn more, stay tuned. We're going to jump right into it. Hello everyone, and welcome to my workshop, and we are looking at the Bambu A1 series of printers. I've been using 3D printers off and on for the better part of the past 10 years, and that started out with a very basic laser cut MDF and linear railed, linear bearing, cobbled together printer that did okay, but man, the quality was hard, the bed adhesion was hard, and prints took forever. And so I went through some of those early struggles. And if you have been hesitant to play with a 3D printer in your workshop, I fully understand that, because up until the past year or so, it's been an adventure trying to get consistency and quality out of the prints. But things have changed a lot, and Bambu Labs has come onto the market in the past couple of years with a number of 3D printers, and they've really shaken up the market with both in pricing and in quality. But what most importantly, probably the most consistent end user experience right out of the box, being able to pull it out of the box, load up the app and get going. And that is crucial. That, quick win early on, being able to feel like you can work with a tool is crucial to being able to enjoy it and actually work with it. So we're going to be looking at these printers. Now, I originally purchased the Bambu A1 Mini out of pocket and enjoyed it. And as I was starting to work with it and looking at sharing some content with you all about how I'm using it in my workshop, actually I got in touch with Bambu Labs, and they sent out the A1 along with the AMS unit to me, and some filament and some accessories to really round this out and help give you guys a good picture of these kind of their entry-level printers, their budget line of printers. But don't let that fool you. These are full-featured and have a lot to offer. The A1 Mini actually comes 99% assembled. You have to unlock the tower, attach the filament spool holder, attach a couple other things, and you're good to go. Plug it in and let it start calibrating. The A1 regular, you do need to attach the tower to the base, but their instructions are very clear. They have the screw locations all marked out in green. There's a few cables to attach, but there again, you're off and running. Now the AMS is optional, the AMS Lite. That can work on either machine, and they even have a print that you can do to attach it to the top of the A1. However, in my scenario, and I don't run it in here in the shop, I actually have it in my office, but I would have room for the wider layout. So if you really want just the standard single spool setup on either of these printers, you're going to be ready to power this on in probably 15 to 20 minutes tops. After that, they do go through a good calibration process, and you can run that full calibration at any time. What that is going to do is going to check the Z offset. It's going to check for bed leveling. It's going to do a vibration resonance test to make sure that it finds the frequencies it wants to avoid, and then also do a noise test to try to be running as quiet as possible. So these 3D printers have a lot of technology into them to understand their environment, tune themselves to that environment, and take a lot of that tuning out of it for you. So when it gets done with its calibration, you're ready to get off and running. Along with that, they do connect via Wi-Fi. They'll connect to the internet, automatically check for any updates. And then if you want to, you can run it through their cloud interface, which is probably the most full featured, but you can set it into LAN only mode so that it only connects to your local area network and allows you to connect to your computer through the slicer or through your mobile devices through the app. And if nothing else, you can also just work off of the touchscreen as well as a micro SD card and access everything you need to from the panel. Now, you'll still need to create your files in another application and move them in here, but they can work standalone. And I love when you have a lot of the features, but you're not tied to them. So if you're having internet issues and access, or you're taking it into a remote spot for some reason, you don't have internet, your machine doesn't turn into a brick. Now, of course, there is going to be some maintenance with these printers as you're using them, but again, that's fairly easy. Primarily, that's going to be keeping the overall printer clean and dust free. Then it does have linear rails along here, as well as in the towers and along the base. And so there's going to need some cleaning and then some re-oiling. They do provide you with a small sample of some lubricant oil, but they also talk about how you can use some WD-40 and lubricate them as well, or light machine oil as well should work fine for these. Other than that, your build plate is something you need to keep clean. That's going to help your bed adhesion. So that can be as simple as some alcohol or some soapy water, let it dry off, and reattach to the printer. And over time, you will be replacing the build plate as well. So now, besides being easy to operate, I do love the fact that they have introduced a fairly inexpensive multi-filament solution for this. Now, that isn't to say that I want to do multicolor prints all the time. That's more of when you're getting into figurines and maybe decorative items. But it gives you the option to easily have some common spools loaded up, and right from the app you can decide, hey, I need this piece to be gray versus maybe that piece to be black or orange. And so it does a lot of the loading and unloading for you. So swapping filament spools on the AMS is very simple. After each job, it does actually retract the filament just a little ways out of the head, so you don't need to preheat this up. You just need to come over to the unit, press the button, and release it. Let's take a closer look. So we're wanting to replace the green, so we're going to simply press this button in, spin the material out. Just be careful as it comes out. You kind of want to grab it and then slide it off the reel. Now, you don't want to have this spin freely unwieldy. So they actually have some files on there where you can print these little clips. Kind user shared them. Just hold that down onto the spool, drop this over your line, and that will lock it in place. And that will hold it nice and tight, and then you want to try to store this in a humid free zone. Now we take the new color that we want, and we want to make sure that these load into the cartridges. So this one would spin this way, this one's going to spin this way. Again, we're going to take the lead, keep it snug, push this onto there till it seats nicely. Once your new spool is on, push the button in, feed filament up into the unit, and it will automatically feed onto the unit and back into the head. Now, one of the nice things of using Bambu's own filament on the AMS is that they have RFID technology that will allow the unit to read what spool you just installed. So when you go into your filament, it should automatically update what is in each of the 4 holders, and then you'll be able to print right away without needing to tell it what kind it is. Now, it does support other manufacturers' filaments. Some of them will be dependent on the spool it has. You may need to print some adapters, and then you'd need to manually enter them. Now, they do have some of the more popular brands of filament loaded in as profiles, and you can also create your own. So once you build up that library of your filaments, you'll be able to easily to swap between them. But there's always the benefit of using their brand-specific filament to have the ease of operation. But that's just another way they are making it easier for beginners to get into this by having it detect the filament and have the best profile loaded for you. This AMS Lite works with either one of these printers. It goes into the multi-tap on the head here and works pretty slick without a lot of cost or a lot of hassle. Now, besides the ease of use and multiple options with colors, the print speed of this is very impressive, and that's been one of the hassles with 3D printing in the past. It's a slow process. Small items may take hours or even a full day of printing, and if you're needing a part right away or you're just impatient, it's a big turnoff. Well, there's a lot of larger full-framed enclosed printers running Core XY at high speeds, and that's great, but they have been able, in this bed slinger style, been able to really increase the speeds and get the accuracy and get the quality, bringing the time to get these prints down to in some cases as little as 15 to 20 minutes for this test benchy, on up to some of my jigs and fixtures, which would take 3 or 4 hours on my past like Creality printers are now taking maybe an hour to print. Another thing that I've seen that is a huge improvement with these printers over some of my past ones is the noise level of the printers. As I mentioned, I don't run these in here. I actually run them in my office, and there are times I'm working from home for my day job, and I wouldn't necessarily be able to sit around a noisy printer that's slinging around, making a lot of mechanical noise as well as loud fans. These printers can sit 5-6 feet behind me, and they seem almost silent. And if at most maybe some white noise, there's a little bit of fan noise, and you do hear a little bit of noise. But as I mentioned earlier, it goes through the calibration process to try to dampen and find the frequencies it should avoid, and helps making that printing process a lot quieter. As a matter of fact, I believe in their marketing materials, they tout that it tops out at like 48 decibels. So that's not even conversation level. That is definitely white noise. I think I've tested my shop here in the past, and just kind of a baseline level has been about 50 to 55 decibels. So they're very quiet. You can tell they're running, but they're not going to be distracting at all. And that's something I greatly appreciate. Now, with all this ease, there are going to be some limitations to these printers. Being that they're open framed printers, they do have a heated bed and a heated nozzle. I believe the A1 Mini, the bed will heat up to 80 degrees centigrade, whereas the A1 Standard will heat up to 100 degrees centigrade. And that will help with bed adhesion and whatnot, but some of the other more high temp filaments get very picky about their overall environment, both in their temperatures as well as the cooling, and so open frame printers aren't best for that. So with these, you're really going to be looking at your PLAs, your PETGs, your TPUs, some of those cooler filaments, and while these can print ABS in some, it's not ideal for these. If you're going to be doing a lot of those and needing them for higher impact durable parts, you may want to step up into their P1 series of printers, where you can get an enclosure, or their Cadillac of them with the X1 series. But these, for using for just simple, more indoor things, a lot of the jigs I use, they're not needing to be high stress type things. PLA works great, PETG works great, and if you want to have some flexible filament for certain things, TPU, while I haven't tested that myself yet, more to come on that later, these will work fine. Now, you may be asking, what's the difference between the two? They're very similar, and for the most part, their functions are the same. So the differences really come down to, quite frankly, their physical dimensions. The A1 Mini has a build area of 180 millimeters cubed, or roughly 7 inches cubed. And so you can see that through this build plate here. This is a little bit bigger than that, but your working area is limited to this, whereas the standard A1 has a 256 millimeter, or roughly 10 inches area cubed, and you can see your build plate here. So if I put them over the top of each other, you can see, well, they're the same color, but you can kind of see there's a fairly substantial build difference with that. That being said, there's still a lot you can do with this smaller working area. So a larger working area can be beneficial, but some shops just need a smaller working space. And so this one is definitely going to have a smaller footprint. This one is going to take up more area, but have a bigger build volume. And so if you have the space, the price difference between the two isn't that great, you may want to jump into this. But if you're looking for something simple, especially if you just want one color, this is probably going to fit your needs quite well. One of the other differences between the two printers is the touchscreen. They both have very responsive touchscreens, but the A1 Mini is limited to 2.4 inch area, whereas the A1 is 3.5. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it does make a big difference. While this is very responsive on this one, I do find, if you got bigger fingers like me, sometimes getting precise touch is a little bit tricky, whereas I haven't had any problem. Both screens are very responsive. I just love the format of the A1, just a little bit bigger. And then finally, just one thing that I noticed while operating both these printers is the overall weight and form factor of the A1 seem to make it just a little more stable, especially when it gets into the high-speed printings and these beds are slinging around a lot. I just felt like the A1 Mini had just a little more tendency to have a little bit of vibrations. So to help counter that, you definitely want to make sure you have this on a flat surface, and that it is not on that it has a bit of a grip to it, so that those feet can hold it in place. So getting started with this printer is very simple. What you want to do is, of course, have your account with Bambu set up, and you'll want to preferably on a mobile device such as a iOS or Android mobile phone, you want to download the Bambu Handy app, and that will let you log in with your account, and that's going to start synchronizing all of your information as far as the printers you've owned. If this is your first one, it'll allow you to link that to it. And then anytime you log into, say, your computer or another mobile device, you'll be able to bring that information in, grab your printers, grab any profiles you've set up. Makes it very easy from that. From there, you can then, of course, control your printer, and you can access some of the files that are on the micro SD card. And one that is best to print all the time, any new printer, has become this 3D Benchy. This is a file that's included on the SD card, and it's been kind of the most common benchmark for testing a new printer, as it goes over a lot of the functions and features and lets you know if it's running pretty well. So this file with either one of these printers is only going to take about 20 minutes tops to print. 15 if you don't run all the pre-job calibrations, and as long as it comes out looking fairly clean, that you're not having a lot of strands on the overhangs, that it's not having a lot of layer shifting, you'll be good to go from that. So from there, you can browse their online models that both they have put out and a lot of users have shared. And from there, I would start with, first off, printing some accessories for your printer. One thing that I find handy is to have some storage bins. You're going to have a variety of things, whether it's for your lasers or these 3D printers. And this actually printed out on the A1 Mini, believe it or not. It's pretty good size. And this took about 3.5 to 4 hours to print out. You can print multiples and they'll stack, so these can be nice storage bins for your workshop. Now, one of the things with these printers, especially if you're using the color change, is they like to purge filament. And it's part of their testing and making sure they're getting the right flow, and you end up with what is affectionately called 3D printer poop. Now, that's going to spit off to the side, so another thing that's really handy to print is what they call a poop chute. A collection bin. This is, again, a file that's out there on the online warehouse. And this one was specifically designed for the A1. It has this nice little notch that tucks in and holds it in place. Things fall down in there, and then it's easily collected, and you can dump this out. This did take about 4 hours and 8 minutes to print, but it's a one-time thing, and then you set it next to the printer, and it's going to collect all your printer poop for you. Similar to that, I have one for the A1 Mini. A little bit smaller, still does the job, collecting all those little bits and pieces. Now, either printer comes with a set of tools and accessories, and so another thing that I found on there was this nice little toolkit, and where it can keep your Allen wrenches, some of your spare parts, your lubricant. This box just kind of clips together. Everything is looking really nice. The top surface, which is the first layer on each one, is very smooth. Of course, it has the texture from the PEI plate. But cool thing about this design is this lid will flip over and stay on each side. So once you've kind of got your printer set up, now it's what else can we do with it? Well, speaking of CNC routers, there are some files out there that allow you to keep your end mills all organized of different sizes. I've got pockets for collets here. Now, not all these pockets are perfect to fit my end mills and such, but it gives you a start, and then you can take applications like Tinkercad and either sometimes import the models or just start drawing your own. One of the common things with laser workshops is our honeycomb hold down pins. And so I went ahead and printed out a number of them. And again, these can be found on the online model sharing spaces. Now, the ones that I found, they weren't quite the right size. They were actually a little bit thinner in diameter. They fit some of my other honeycombs, but not the one I use in the Rolly Lasermatic. All I did was take my calipers and measure the stock ones, measure the weave in my honeycomb bed, made the adjustment, scaled these up about 17% larger, and printed them out, and they work great. I can push them in, hold material down, and it takes nothing to print out a bunch of these. And of course, needed to print a bin to hold them all. This can sit right next to the laser, keeps them organized, but accessible. Another cool feature with 3D printers is a lot of print in place mechanical functioning items. And so oftentimes we're building enclosures and other things. We might have doors and other things that need hinges, and they might not need to be the most structurally sound. They just need to offer a pivot point. Well, you can 3D print hinges, and this is one that I printed in place, and it has a nice countersunk recessed holes for the screws. And I feel that this would deal with a fair amount of wear and tear. Obviously, I'm not going to be putting a lot of weight and hanging off of this, but one of these, this took maybe half an hour to print. So if I laid out a few of them and needed a hinge rows, kind of a cool thing you can do with 3D printers is make some of your own connectors and fasteners that way. One of the things that I've noticed is people might have the F1 laser from Xtool, which has this nice bottom spot out here. And I've done videos on making jigs and fixtures for this before. But not everybody has a larger laser that can actually cut out the imprint size. One of the jigs I created on a previous video for the F1 was a pencil jig, pencil or pen, and it's just a simple kind of square that sits down in there and then has these raised edges where the pencils can fit into there. And the nice thing is that this drops right in place and allows you to set up that file, drop your pencils in, change the text, good to go. Well, with the 3D printer, this isn't moving. It's just a perfect fit. So first off, I'm impressed that the dimensions were very accurate and very true. And now 1 hour, I've got that jig. I could also do the same thing for dog tags or any other things that I want to hold in here and be able to drop in, drop out, and do repeatable cuts. So creating jigs and fixtures for your lasers is one great reason to have a 3D printer. Another one that I found online, I didn't make this one myself, but this is a 2-part print, and this is, again, for the F1, but is for aligning the RA2. This was done in 2 parts because it's got a lower lip here as well as the larger base here, and they were dovetailed together. Again, printed them out, even included some supports on this one so that it would print well, but then they slid together really nice and tight. As you can see here, I can just pop this part out from the back end. But this is a support piece to hold the RA2 level, but then it also puts it in alignment. So this square on here drops down into there, fits fairly well, and then the RA2 locks in place nice and tight, and then you can adjust it side to side. It's going to make using the rotary with the F1 much easier. So you don't have to be a 3D modeling wizard to be able to take advantage of these. There's a lot of people out there who have produced files and are either giving them away on some of these online sharing sites, or for a modest fee, you can go onto Etsy and find 3D files as well, drop them into your 3D printer, and have fun with it. Now, as I mentioned, one of the features is the automatic material system, or the AMS Lite, that you can attach to either the A1 or the A1 Mini. And what that does is allow you to do multicolor prints. And so this is a simple thing that I drew up, made it in Tinkercad as well. And it has the raised logo, which is in black, whereas the kind of the coaster, the base part, is just in the gray. And it did all the switching over automatically. Actually worked out fairly well, and I didn't have to interfere with this at all. It was really cool to see this. Now, every time it does change color, it goes through a filament purge, and that's where you end up with more of this. And so if you were doing a lot of color in the same layer, it's going to be doing a lot of changes, and over time it's going to add to the time of your print, and it's going to add to a lot of the waste there. But it is very cool to be able to do this, and the software itself allows you to take any standard STL file that you imported, any 3D file, you can actually paint on the color, or you can tell it by layers which colors to do. So you can actually take someone else's model that is just meant for one color and tell it where you want the different ones. Kind of a neat feature. And that's something that I think I'm going to be using too often, because like I said, it adds to the filament waste and it adds to the time. But every so often you got to do something kind of neat. And this printer, either one of them with the AMS Lite, opens up that whole world of multicolor printing. And of course, not everything has to be functional and purpose driven. Some things are just for fun. One of the items that's actually, I think, included on the card is just this little, I don't know, they call them whirligigs or whatever, little flying helicopters, but this was all printed together, everything kind of locked into place, screwed in, and if I made this right, this should just spin off. Along with that, cosplayers love this for making masks and helmets, and one thing I found was this 3D printed chainmail, and so this was all printed in place on the bed of the A1, so it prints out flat onto the bed. There is no cleanup, there's nothing that I had to take apart, but once you pop it free, it's basically like a fabric. It's a plastic chainmail, and so what am I going to do with this? I don't know. It's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see the physics and how the printer makes this work. And of course, no workshop is complete without requests from our significant others and such. And so my wife really wanted a dumpster on fire. We've all seen the jokes and the memes over the past few years from that. But here again, these are a few different parts. So there is the green base for the dumpster. These parts just kind of are slid in. So these were printed separately, the orange flames as well as this black side. But it is functional. You can put pens and such in there. So if you're looking for a unique little desk item or you need a place to put some pens and such in your workshop, why not have a little fun with it? Now, perhaps the best part about these printers right now is their price. The normal retail price of just the standalone A1 Mini is $299 and the A1 Standard is $399, but right now they're actually on sale. At the time of this video, the A1 Mini is only $199. The A1 Standard is $329. And if you want to add on the AMS system with the A1 Mini, it's $349. With the A1, it's $489. Now, I don't know how long that sale is going to be on, but that's why I wanted to get out this kind of first impressions video for you now, in case you've been on the fence about one of these, adding them to your laser shop. Those are some awesome prices. If nothing else, if you've been on the fence about it, but you've been concerned about it, at $199, there's going to be maybe some sales tax, possibly some shipping on there. With this, you're going to be able to create jigs for an X-Tool F1. You're going to be able to print out jigs for any of the gantry style printers with a honeycomb bed. That is a really inexpensive price to get started and be able to add that to your arsenal of tools, help you create things that make your lasering work better, maybe help organize your CNC bits and such. So this is where I think I'm going to wrap up this video. Again, I just kind of wanted to get out my first impressions on the Bambu Labs A1 series. I'm going to be doing more with them, and including going a little more in depth on how they work, maybe how you can create a simple file, or we'll just download some files and play around with them in future videos. But if you have any questions or comments, go ahead, leave those down below. Always appreciate the interaction with viewers. Appreciate you being here, and we will catch you soon. But in the meantime, hope you get out your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.